use the word demon. Demon doesn't necessarily mean that someone who is evil, or, well, in one sense, but that is, they eat babies, or they kill people, or they have fangs and horns and things like that. Demon is one who is disregards the scriptures. They disregard the recommendations of the Lord. They don't really have too much care what the Lord recommends. They don't know, and they don't want to know. And their prime objective of life is simply their own enjoyment. And so we're in this world because we've somehow come into this demonic mentality. But the purified, or those who are on the purificatory process, we're trying to turn around. We've been going west for a long time, and we have to give up the west and go east, which is the opposite, which is trying to do activities which is ultimately pleasing to the Lord. So, but there are so many demonic influences, especially in this age. The age is presided over by the great demon Kali, and he needs a place, because the demons have a purpose. The Lord has created demons for a purpose. He's created this demonic world for a purpose, not for the purpose of everyone being in pools of bliss here, but actually for the purpose of, in pursuing everyone's selfish desires, where all the demons gather to do that, it creates such a disturbing situation that the evolved soul will begin to seek out the Lord. So that's the whole purpose of this world, is to create a facility in which people can see the opposite of what service to the Lord is like. And when they see how disturbing it is, the intelligent freely and willingly will turn to the Lord. The Lord is not an autocrat. He's not like a dictator and saying, you follow me and you love me and you surrender to me. If you do, it's in your great benediction. He lovingly takes care of those who surrender to him. But if you don't, he's like, fine, here's this world, carry on. You can do it for as many lifetimes as you'd like, but the result is definitely suffering, because you'll have this inherent selfish nature. You'll create so much disturbance to other living entities, and they'll create so much disturbance to you, and you'll all clash, and next thing you know, everyone will be disturbed. And that's this world. But we're learning here that Kali, he approached Maharaj Parikshit, and Maharaj Parikshit was ready to kill him, and Kali was sinning, because that's what Kali does. But then he realized, he realized there was no hiding for Maharaj Parikshit in this world, so he surrendered to him, and he said, please give me a place. And so Maharaj Parikshit, in this verse, he gave the place where the four regulative principles came up. And it was Sutta Vacha, Abhyarthitas Tadatasmai, Stanani Kalaye Dado, Dyutang Panang Striya Suna, Yatra Dharmash Chatur Vidha. Before we read the purport, we're going to do our Mangal Charana. But it was Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed. And we'll get back into the purport, but we only did the first paragraph of the purport, but Prabhupada had a lot of really nice reflections. But before we begin, we'll glorify our lineage of spiritual teachers, including Srila Prabhupada, whose commentary we're reading, and we'll beg their mercies so that we can actually take in the blessing of Bhagavatam, and take in the blessing of what our acharyas are hoping for us, so that we can advance and go east and give up the west of trying to be the enjoyers and masters and controllers of this world, and go east in trying to lovingly and humbly serving the Lord, it's just two opposite directions. You can't go west while going east, and you can't go east while going west. So we have to choose which direction do we want to go. And the right answer is east, but where have we been going is west. And just like if you missed your exit and you want to go back, you can't keep going the same direction to get to your exit. You have to finally turn around and go to the exit, the destination. So if we want to go to a place where there's real pleasure eternally, which is what we all want, naturally, the intelligent will turn around and stop going that way, and then turn and go the proper way. So we're going. This is one of the processes of going, is hearing Bhagavatam, reciting Bhagavatam. This is very much a going east process. Everything we do at the ashram, we try to have an emphasis on going east, you could say, going towards service to the Lord. So anyhow, before we begin, let's do our Mangal Charana. Parth, you can maybe scroll in here. Bear with me, my house is a little under performing. I foresee I have at least one more day of underperforming health.
Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raguna Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vachakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine.
It's like the definition of insanity. We were talking about going east and west and not getting off. It's like doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah, it's insane. Like we miss our exit. It's insane to think, if I keep going the wrong direction, I'll get to my destination. You have to change. You have to do something different. So this is what we're trying to do. That's why, we're happy to have you back. Hearing Bhagavatam is one of the things. To go east every day. Chanting our Maha Mantras, both in Japa and Kirtan, is an east activity. Engaging in the deity worship, either at home or with the devotees, east direction. Visiting the Dham or visiting the temple and rendering service there is in east direction. And gathering with the devotees is probably the number one thing for east direction. And not just gathering with the devotees and just talking about, finances or politics or this, that, and the other. Gathering with the devotees and talking about Krishna consciousness. This is the east direction. And everything else practically in this world, there's 59 other limbs of devotion that you could practice, which is the east direction. But everything else other than that is the west. And you are going the wrong way. And unless you use all of these things in this world and offer it to Krishna, you'll continue going west. And even if you take a few steps east, but then you take 40 steps west, you're not going anywhere, So it's you have to give up the west to go east, So we have to. There are probably many things we could look at in our life. I should reduce, or I should give up this, or I should minimize my time in having to do this so I can spend more time going east. And so we have to do this. These are very strong west activities here where Kali is going. Kali is meant to go west, and he's meant to bring people to the west. But we're not trying to go where Kali is and be influenced by him. So, but he's given the places where gambling is afoot, casinos, the stock markets, all these places. There's so much, gambling afoot. We just got to be careful. I mean, there may be a way to, properly associate, but not very difficult. Drinking, same thing. All kinds of places where intoxication is, out on the streets, things like that, bars, things like that. But the devotees going there, chanting Hare Krishna, not taking the intoxication. There's been many good experiences with Harinams near bars and things like that. But still, going in these places, wherever there's intoxication, you're going west, you're gonna, it will destroy your own ability to take up the Krishna consciousness process, because this is a directly west going activity. There's no chance of going east while doing prostitution. We talked about yesterday. Prostitution doesn't necessarily just mean hiring strippers or prostitutes and things like that. It's actually all types of illicit sex life, and that means really outside of marriage, all sex is engaging in west-going activity. And then on top of that, even in marriage, all sex not for the purpose of lovingly bringing a beautiful child into the world is a west-going activity. And actually it's the husband and wife are, in one sense prostituting each other, trading, you could say, sexual indulgence. And it's oftentimes the woman is usually less inclined than the man is in having sex life, usually. But, oftentimes the woman does it out of duty, because it's very strong desire of the man. But usually what happens is that, and this is for grihamedis, or for those who are trying to enjoy this material world, going west, then what ends up happening is that then the woman feels entitled and owed all kinds of favors for this exchange. So it's actually like a prostitution in a sense. So it's very important we don't engage in this activity, where the man, like a donkey, the donkey begs the she-donkey for sex, and the she-donkey, she responds by kicking him over and over again, and he keeps pursuing for sex even though she kicks him over and over and over again. But ultimately, if the donkey doesn't pursue the she-donkey for sex, he won't get kicked so often. And many men who get kicked in their relationships so brutally. And why are they getting kicked? Because they keep approaching the woman for that sex, and then next thing you know, she feels entitled to money and shopping and this, that, all kinds of desires. And then ultimately, you better pay up, because the exchange was already made. So anyhow, it's very much not, but this is also could be understood as prostitution. And last is animal slaughter as well. So Prabhupada, he's saying here, the basic principles of irreligiosity, such as pride, prostitution, intoxication, and falsehood, counteract the four principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. So pride is actually the symptom of why people animal slaughter, is they're proud. They don't realize, one, that they're doing anything wrong. They don't mind at all causing suffering and harm to others, because they think they're so important that they will minimize the value of others. And so this is ultimately pride. And so anytime that anyone, you have no problem inconveniencing or harming another, it's just simply due to pride, actually. This is the reason. So in pride, there's no mercy. If you have pride, you're not merciful. In prostitution, there's no cleanliness. The consciousness is not clean, nor is even the outer body clean. In intoxication, there's no austerity. There's no discipline in life. And if you rely on intoxications, you'll not have any discipline and be practically unable to go forward. And then last, in falsehood, deceitful activities, cheating activities, there can be no truthfulness. And this is, essentially why gambling is mentioned, because gambling are places of falsehood where it's a rigged system. Everything, even you could see. I've been studying this: the stock markets, the crypto markets, the gold markets. Everything is leveraged. It's difficult because we all hold money, and even if you hold dollars, you say, "Well, I don't gamble," but there's also elements there where people are also manipulating the whole thing, devaluing the dollars and all these things, and it's been done. So ultimately, even that, Prabhupada actually talks about in the Bhagavatam what real wealth is, and what is a safe way to engage wealth. And he'll talk about it furthermore. And that safe way to engage wealth is actually in real assets, maybe gold, silver, gems, things like that, land, cows, and food items. So that's why Prabhupada ultimately, he wanted all of us to have businesses centered around farming and living off the land. So that's actually that's actually my hope. We have this other property not that far away. My hope is we can engage this property. It's on 5 acres of land, that we can engage this property in Krishna service and surviving off the land, especially if, Prabhupada's prediction of the cities degrading more and more rapidly, we're at the point where it's necessary. So anyway, we'll see if Krishna, he wants to support such an endeavor. Right now he's pumping the brakes on the endeavor, but we'll see. But anyhow, the personality of Kali was given permission to live in 4 places particularly mentioned by the king, namely the place of gambling, the place of prostitution, the place of drinking, and the place of animal slaughter. Srila Jiva Goswami directs that drinking against the principles of scriptures such as Sotramani Yogya, association with women outside marriage, and killing animals against the injunctions of scriptures are irreligious. This also means girlfriend, dating. This is irreligious, actually. You should get married. This is it's a recommendation. Even in the Bible, this was always done. Women and men are interested, they should get married, and then they build the relationship. All these illicit hanging out and doing all kinds of activities together, this is actually irreligious and will only bring in auspiciousness in your life. So whatever obstacles are there for marriage, you should. In the West, it's difficult because we have an irreligious approach now. Now in the West, it's getting so bad that people, they buy houses and even have children before getting married. But this is very foolish, actually. We should commit to the partner first in the marriage and create the samskara where in front of all the friends and relatives you've said, I'm dedicating myself to this woman. And then, get the house, get the children, all these things. But we live in a backwards, Kali-infested society, so we naturally we like to associate with women outside marriage. And so anyway, killing animals against the injunctions of the scriptures also are irreligious. So practically the whole animal killing, eating meat, anything. This is unless you're doing it halal or kosher or something, which very few people are, or eating goats like in Kali worship or something. but no, practically nobody is. So it's all irreligious. In the Vedas, two different types of injunctions are there for the pravritas, or those who are engaged in material enjoyment, and for the nivritas, those who are liberated from material bondage. The Vedic injunction for the pravritas is to gradually regulate their activities towards the path of liberation. Therefore, for those who are in the lowest stage of ignorance and who indulge in wine, women, and flesh, drinking by performing sotramani yagya, association of women by marriage, and flesh eating by sacrifices are sometimes recommended. So for those who are in the lowest stage, there is even religious ways to indulge in these things. Like in the Vedas, it's the Sotramani Yagya is one of those things. But in the Jewish religion, they have ways where you can eat flesh. In the Christian religion, they have ways you can eat flesh and drink wine, and same in the Islamic religion. But these are actually low class, and these are for those who are not very advanced. And by doing these, they'll actually become more regulated and be able to become more advanced. Like the Essene Jews, who Jesus was almost certainly a part of, they were so merciful that they didn't even eat vegetables that you would kill them. They would eat only fruits, nuts, seeds, and things like this. And so it's... and also they had a similar message that Jesus was teaching, and many scholars, they believe that Jesus must have been part of these Essenes. But anyhow, but as you advance in performing yagyas, you can take to higher and higher principles. But such recommendations in the Vedic literature are meant for a particular class of men and not for all. Because they are injunctions of the Vedas for particular types of persons, such activities by the pravritas are not considered adharma. So if you do these yagyas, even if you're doing more abominable activities, like even association with women through marriage, flesh eating, and wine drinking, if you follow at least the yagya, then they're not adharma or irreligious. So, but such activities are factually adharma. They're never considered adharma or irreligious, but such activities are factually adharma. So, so even if you, and they are never to be encouraged, so they are actually adharma, Prabhupada's saying. The recommendations in the scriptures are not meant for the encouragement of such a dharma, but for regulating the necessary adharma gradually towards the path of dharma. So let's say you're implicated in a dharma, maybe whatever four things, gambling, or intoxication, sex life. This, you have to. There are ways to gradually reduce these things and offer them in Vedic injunctions. But then ultimately, the ideal is you give them up altogether. The recommendations in the scriptures are not meant for the encouragement of such a dharma, but for regulating the necessary dharma gradually toward the path of dharma. So, if for instance, a very famous devotee, he wrote this book, Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. And he was one of Prabhupada's first disciples. Maybe you ever heard of Shyam Sundar Prabhu?
Yes.
Yeah, so Shyam Sundar Prabhu, he pretty famous devotee. He got George Harrison involved with the Beatles. Very famous. One of the first disciples, and instrumental in making the Hare Krishna movement explode. Actually, I once asked him, what should I do? What should I do? And he said, risk everything for Krishna. I thought that was interesting. That was his one instruction. Risk everything for Krishna. And I was like, that's interesting. And that was his experience. He risked everything for Krishna. You can maybe even say, took a gamble on life for Krishna. But it's not, because Krishna will, if you depend wholly on Krishna, he'll take care of you. He was instructed by Prabhupada to carve the Jagannath deities. But he was feeling a great lamentation because he was addicted to cigarettes. And intoxication is technically a dharma. So Prabhupada was very smart. He didn't tell Shyam Sundar, you quit immediately. Get rid of these cigarettes. He could tell that he was really struggling with this a dharmic activity. He was he was conditioned in the West. So Prabhupada just said, just smoke one less every day. So he gave him a gradual program in which he did less adharma, less adharma, less adharma, and then eventually he could stop and then fully engage in dharma. So this is the Vedas offer such things. So let's just say, you're addicted to sex life, you're addicted to this, that, and the other thing. I know in my life this was a huge addiction of mine. But you have to gradually less and less and less and less. Sometimes like every Ekadashi, there are 3 days, the day before, the day of, and the day after, you could at least avoid sex for that time. And then there's certain fasts, there's maybe 4 months of fasting, you could avoid sex for that time. And then eventually, by practicing less and less adharma, and then more dharma can come, then you won't even be attracted to it in the first place. But it's a gradual process. So the Vedas give actually different ways to do that. And if one is implicated in adharma and they cannot necessarily stop, you just have to, accept this is where I'm at. I'm not in a good position, but I know where the good position is, and I have to lessen this bad position and increase the good position. So like this. But such activities are factually adharma. No, I read that. And you gradually go towards dharma. Following in the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit, it is the duty of all executive heads of state to see that the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, are established in the state. And that the principles of irreligion, namely pride, illicit female association or prostitution, intoxication, and falsity are checked by all means. And to make the best use of a bad bargain, the personality of Kali may be transferred to places of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and slaughterhouses. If there are any places like that, those who are addicted to these irreligious habits may be regulated by the injunctions of the scripture. In no circumstances should they be encouraged by any state. In other words, the state should categorically stop all sorts of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and falsity. That's not happening. Like, for instance, President Trump, he has an online platform called Truth Social, and he just opened up ways now that people can not only engage in cryptocurrency sales there, but on top of that, engage in gambling on sports, on his platform. And he's the President of the United States. So this is, Prabhupada was writing these comments in hopes that the educated leaders of society would read and realize. But this is how far we are from such a reality. So you actually, all you can, see. And also, speaking of President Trump, because I've been studying these things, him and his family are making billions upon billions of dollars in this, specifically in these crypto markets, because they know the whole world this is the direction of all of the cash and all of the flows of money. Everything is going to be digitized. This is their desire, and him and so many other political affiliates are cheating the people, making billions of money. Even when it looks like it's good, it's definitely going to go up. When he wants, he can just say, oh, now we're tariffing China. And then all of a sudden, he can flip the market, make billions of dollars, cheat all these people. People gamble on these things. They do, what is it? I'm learning about it. They short or long, they choose options, and they predict what the market's going to do, and they somehow have that leverage in the amount of money. And whenever all kinds of gamblers gather, then usually the politician, they'll say something to flip the market. Why? It's a dishonest business. So you're just expecting to lose and lose and lose in these things. Anyway, I'm just telling you because I've learned firsthand what a Kali-infested thing this is. But anyhow, the state should want to eradicate corruption by majority and may introduce the principles of religion in the following manner. 1. 2 compulsory fasting days in a month, if not more, austerity. So Prabhupada's saying, Akadashi, this is Akadashi. Observe Akadashi. It's one of the limbs of devotion, actually. And it's coupled in with any appearance day of the Lord. Actually, any appearance day of the Lord, you should try to fast. Any appearance day, at least until prescribed time. But 2 compulsory fasting days in a month, if not more, for austerity. Even from the economic point of view, 2 fasting days in a month in the state will save tons of food, and the system will also act very favorably on the general health of the citizens. Most disease is food related. If you don't give your body a rest once every 2 weeks, you're just going to keep multiplying disease in your body, and you're going to have more and more problems. The weight will gain and all these things. So if you do fast, and this is Prabhupada's he's speaking to all the leaders of society. And so, as devotees at least we should, but he's speaking for the whole leaders of society. This will give success. And but 2 compulsory fasting days in a month. So this is, he's saying, is Akadashi. That's the hope. 2, there must be compulsory marriage of young boys and girls attaining 24 years of age and 16 years of age, respectively. That'll be tough to implement, but it's actually, this would save, and you can talk to my wife about it, and you can, at 16 years of age, girls are so lusty, it's crazy, and at 24 years of age, even the boys are incredibly lusty, but even, maybe even before that. But basically, if you make sure that they're married by that age, then they can actually they cannot get implicated in all kinds of things. You could see this. Girls are getting pregnant very early, and many times they're not equipped to take care of it, and then next thing you know, they're doing abortions and these things like that. So much of this can actually, young men and young women are intermingling very young, and they're developing deep attachments to each other, and next thing you know, they are implicated, but they're not, because they're so young and fragile, they don't have their life together in any which way. Their parents aren't equipped to help them get married or anything like that. So what happens is they break up, and it's a disaster, and they have their hearts ripped apart. This happens to many people. And and then they have to watch the females, then the females go to another man, and then the whole cherished ideal of only being with one partner is impossible, and it's just a little. So anyway, if people were married early, like in the olden times, in a religious and proper way, there is also, you can't force something that's. Then actually people can have really happy, and this is actually evident in the traditional Indian system of marriage. Traditional Indian system of marriage, the parents, they arrange it, and then they'll check the astrology, make sure the karmas line up, and that they're not going to do something crazy, that they're not lined up properly. But if everything lines up and the boy and the girl, they seem favorable towards each other, they arrange the marriage. And then they have the least divorces in the whole world, but it's growing because Kali Yuga is taking precedence. But they have the least divorces in the whole world, and they, you can learn. It's a better system, Many Indian husbands, they never have to talk about how their wife was, seeing this guy and this guy and this guy and doing, But in the West, we don't have that. It's a much more degraded arrangement. Where, you talk about all your, me and my wife sometimes discuss our past activities, and it's like hurtful. You don't want to hear that, like, oh, my wife's ex-boyfriend. It's like anytime that comes up, you're like, oh, I really wish that wasn't there. Well, it wouldn't be there if everyone did this religious and proper way, but it is there, and you just have to tolerate it. Here in the West at least, but in the Indians, you guys are pretty good, so you guys just carry on like this. But Prabhupada is saying this would be, if these things were compulsory in society, so many problems would be solved. Many of people will definitely not agree with this. I can think of practically 90% of Facebook will not agree, But humbly, respectably, they're wrong. It would totally work if people were properly married at young age. They would be much more responsible and much less degraded by all of these unnecessarily intermingling and casual dating, which actually leads people to all kinds of they're not happy in their relationships. They're flipping around, divorcing left and right, and getting new husbands and new wives, and no one's ends up happier in the situation.
People are open to it once you explain it, but if it's not explained, then people are very hesitant to accept things. Like if you go into
Yeah, I mean, if I went to Syracuse University and started proclaiming this would be.
it was for me, with a women's group, actually, we get into this stuff, and you have to get into actually, the emotional, but it has to be intimate. You can't just maybe say these things out loud and just expect people to accept it. You have to it has to be intimate. People have to realize, there's a karmic web that creates this and does that.
Yeah.
And even on the child marriage is a huge thing that people are so disgusted by, and just hearing it sounds like bleh. But actually, in ancient India, it wasn't like I was just hearing Gorka Shordas was married by the age of 11, and people automatically are that's disgusting. But it's not that he was 11, the girl was probably 7. It's not okay, now they're married, they live together, and they do all the activities that adults do. It's they're married, they know at some point they'll live together, they'll be together, but actually they're still living in their parents' house. It's just knowing for the girl and the boy, I don't have to look, I don't have to spend my time and energy seeking here and there, because I know that my heart's going to be someone's. And then the girl is trained to go over to the husband's house and learn okay, this is how his mom takes care of him, this is what he likes, these are the activities that's expected of a wife. And then the husband learns, oh, my wife likes this, my wife is like that. And then by the age that they're proper to move in, 16, 17, 18, whatever, 20, they already know each other so well, because they've been from a distance living with each other, creating affection and serving each other, which is actually what love is, service. And then the love is so strong that they're already so attached, But you have to go through that. You can't just be oh, child marriage.
I mean, even if you go through it, most people will just
Well,
that's
today
not.
too, with social media and, it's so difficult, and the perception that everybody has now, this, that, and the other thing. It's just, there's no real guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
people are triggered so quickly and so easily.
Yeah.
Just one word and they're just
and there's such a self-righteous sense of values which are against the principles of religion that, for instance, they think, well, child marriage or this is wrong and things like that. But really, no, it actually works much better. And you see this now, the divorce rates are through the roof. And, most people, many people, older people are walking around. There have been a couple wives in the equation, and there's been a couple husbands in the equation. Even, me and my wife, we both were pretty modest as in comparison to most of our peers. But still, we have multiple different relationships, intimate relationships with other people before we met. And it actually causes ups and downs and heartbreaks that come with that. It actually causes an inability to fully open up to each other because we're guarded already from previous experiences. That's why people cheat and do all these things, because the previous bad experiences are there. But if you religiously commit to each other at a young age, then and are trained in this, this would be beneficial. So Prabhupada is actually giving to the legal. He's making a declaration to the leaders of society. This is how you can increase the principles of religion in your life. And he said there must be compulsory marriage of young boys and girls attaining 24 years of age and 16 years of age respectively. Or boys, by 24 they should be married, and girls by 16 should be married. But he says there's no harm in coeducation in the schools and colleges, provided the boys and girls are duly married, and in case there is intimate connection, in case there is any intimate connection between a male and female student, they should be married properly without illicit relation. The Divorce Act is encouraging prostitution, and this should be abolished. So, Prabhupada's saying the divorce thing is everyone and anyone and everyone free to divorce, and even sometimes it's beneficial. They make it beneficial for divorces, legally beneficial. But actually it's encouraging prostitution where all kinds of flipping around this person, that person, and there will be no cleanliness in the relationship between male and female, and the sex drive there will be no healthy way to facilitate this urge. So Prabhupada is being strong. Most people will not agree. I mean, modern people will not agree, but we live in an insane world with insane values, and that's why they'll get the insane results of their lives. But devotees, at least we should do these things, Like you guys have girlfriends. Let's get married, Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing to get married. Or at least that should be the goal, and it should be working towards. Even myself, me and my wife, we were dating, and devotees were like moving us really quick. I remember I guess my Guru Maharaj had told his son that we were engaged, because that is actually like the proper, way to associate. When you're dating, it's like if you're getting engaged, And so I remember on Janmashtami, he congratulated us for our engagement. It was her first, one of her first times at the temple for Janmashtami, and I was just like, we're not engaged yet, because there's a certain way to do it in the West, and you have to honor some traditions. I bought the ring and did the whole thing, but anyway, but it showed me like this is what should be done. This is the goal. You're not just getting together because you enjoy each other's company illicitly. You're getting together to perform a religious sacrifice, a yajna, a marriage. This just hanging out for pleasure. This is irreligious, actually.
I think we were dating 1 month.
Yeah.
I think it's like, congrats on your engagement.
Yeah, and we're like, whoa, 1 month engaged.
It was my first time at the temple, first time first time meeting him, and I was just like,
So anyway, we were like, we kind of laughed it off, but actually very soon after, our Guru Maharaj kept encouraging us, and really what ended up happening, and so many, Krishna kind of pushed us so many ways, and then finally when we went to India, after only 6 months, he started arranging our wedding, and then by 9 months we were completely married, of 9 months of seeing each other. And thank God we got married that quickly, because guess what? Life is hard. It's not easy. And at some point in the point of our marriage, we started having friction and fighting and troubles. And guess what? If we weren't married, I think it would have been very easy for us in our Western conditioning to just go apart. And Abhiram wouldn't be here. Maybe this whole process wouldn't be here, and reality would be different. But because we were encouraged to marry early, actually that kept us together. Because couples are going to fight, but if you commit to marriage, it's not so easy. You just told in front of, develop the relationships with everyone's family. You told in front of all your friends and family. It's not so easy to just end it, back out. But it's becoming easier and easier, but it's,
And at our wedding, one of the guys specifically was like, there's no word in Hindi for divorce.
Yes, he did say this. Apparently there's not even
God doesn't recognize divorce.
Yeah, it's not recommended in any spiritual tradition. And it was given in the Judeo-Christian religion in extreme circumstances. But even in the 1800s, I was just reading something on Charles Dickens, and he was the one who wrote A Christmas Carol, and how he had a wife and she had 10 kids, and he really wanted to divorce her, but he had to get the public sentiment to divorce her. So he like slandered her in all of his writings and things like that. And you had to do so much to get the society to accept divorce, because even if you did get a divorce, unless it was extreme circumstances, you should never get a divorce. But now it's just common. Now people do it for money and advantage and things. It's
When we were growing up, I mean, even when I was young, somebody, one of your neighbors or somebody ended up getting divorced, it was like a huge thing.
yeah.
And,
Now it's just commonplace. Yeah, but it's not. It's not an ideal situation at all, actually. It's not an ideal situation to get divorced. And some people maybe have been divorced and, well, I think my life's better. It may be better depending on the circumstance. But the whole act, not a lot of people would realize where if you, let's just say you get divorced and remarried and you're happy enough with your remarriage, how much better that marriage would have been, and if you both were able to meet at a young age and properly marry from the proper age and not go through all of the turmoil and things like that of the heart.
For people that aren't
Yeah.
divorced.
Yeah. So I mean, and even with my wife and I, if we were to meet at a young age and be properly situated with the other, how much better our marriage, how much healthier of a relationship we'd have, how much less friction and guarding and all these things we'd have. So if we did actually follow these religious principles Prabhupada is recommending for the leaders of society, it would be incredible, the benefit. So he's saying fasting, 2 days a month, that means Ekadashi, compulsory marriage of young boys and girls, and he's saying that 3, the citizens of the state must give in charity up to 50% of their income for the purpose of creating a spiritual atmosphere in the state or in the human society, both individually and collectively. They should preach the principles of Bhagavatam by A, karma yoga, or doing everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. B, regular hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam from authorized persons or realized souls. C, chanting of the glories of the Lord, congregationally at home or at places of worship. D, rendering all kinds of service to Bhagavats engaged in preaching Srimad Bhagavatam. So any soul who's trying to share these teachings with the world, the society should take care of them and facilitate them. And E, residing in a place where the atmosphere is saturated with God consciousness. If the state is regulated by the above process, naturally there will be God consciousness everywhere. So, at least we can follow. They're not going to follow. But but this is actually, can be for an ideal society. Learning how to do karma yoga, everything that you do, all the work or karma that you do, you can learn how to offer. He says up to 50% of their income for the purpose of creating a spiritual atmosphere. That would be very nice. The Christians at least say 10% of the income. So we should try to do like this. And actually the Lord has forced me into this in my life. Now everything that I own and have is for this Krishna Consciousness Center. And I'm finding myself just every month, any money that's accumulated, it's all going back to the project. And that's all I can do with it. And it's good, actually. But we should, before we owned anything, I was able to save and I was able to think about things that we could do. But actually then once I got implicated in this whole responsibility thing, then everything, Krishna, all the karma yoga is going. And it's good though. So we should try to do like this. This is interesting. Gambling of all description, even speculative business enterprise, is considered to be degrading, and when gambling is encouraged in the state, there is a complete disappearance of truthfulness. Allowing young boys and girls to remain unmarried more than the above-mentioned ages, and licensing animal slaughterhouses of all description should be at once prohibited. What does he want? Come on. The flesh eaters may be allowed to take flesh, as mentioned in the scriptures, and not otherwise. Intoxication of all description, even smoking cigarettes, chewing tobacco, or the drinking of tea, must be prohibited. So Prabhupada is giving a very strong program for us. And we should, we should try to follow. And we should realize in where we're not following, there's going to be lots of turmoil and uncertainty, and Kali will be present there. And it'll be a dark and kind of demonic place and activities. So, yeah. The thing that's getting me the most is the speculative business enterprise. Because, that's a lot of what I've been trying to figure out. And so I'm like, maybe I should just get a new hobby, because it's likely not a good idea. So, anyhow, let's do at least one more verse. Punascha yachamanaya Jatarupam adat prabhu Tato nirtang madang kamam Rajo vairang cha panchamam Puna, again. Cha, also. Yachamanaya, to the beggar. Jatarupam, gold. Adat, gave away. Prabhu, the king. Tata, whereby. Anritam, falsehood. Madam, intoxication. Kamam, lust. Raja, on account of a passionate mood. Vairam, enmity. Cha, also. Panchamam, the fifth one. The personality of Kali asked for something more, and because of his begging, the king gave him permission to live where there is gold, because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity. Great. Purport. Although Maharaj Parikshit gave Kali permission to live in 4 places, it was very difficult for him to find the places, because during the reign of Maharaj Parikshit there were no such places. Therefore Kali asked the king to give him something practical, which could be utilized for his nefarious purposes. Maharaj Parikshit thus gave him permission to live in a place where there is gold. Because wherever there is gold, there are all the above mentioned 4 things. And over and above them there is enmity also, like people will become enemies with others. They'll create enemies out of others and try to, steal the gold or like this. So the personality of Kali became gold standardized. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, gold encourages falsity, intoxication, prostitution, envy, and enmity. Even a gold standard exchange in currency is bad. Gold standard currency is based on falsehood because the currency is not on a par with the reserved gold. The basic principle is falsity because currency notes, and this is actually before they got rid of the gold standard of currency, because they did that like maybe 4 or 5 years after he wrote this. But this artificial inflation of currency by the authorities encourages prostitution of the state economy. The price of commodities becomes artificially inflated because of bad money or artificial currency notes. He predicted this, 50 years, and now look at it, Look at the inflation. $20, which was used to be gold-backed, could get you so much in a cart of groceries. Now $20 will get you 2 things at the grocery store. This is why he's saying. But he's saying even in the backing of gold, they're doing this. The price of commodities becomes artificially inflated because of bad money or artificial currency notes. So he's talking about the printing of money, how bad it is. And it encourages prostitution of the society.
It's kind of like the stock market.
Yeah, well that's
The same kind of falsity.
Yeah, it's all based on this. I'm trying to figure out, well, now we all have this printed stuff, what should we do? So Prabhupada, one of the reasons I invested in silver years ago, because I read all the heck about gold, and I was like, all right. But anywhere that there's wealth, and you have to be very careful. Even I saw so many examples of temples where they were given some amount of money by the public, and they just took the money and ran and dropped the program and stole the money from all the people. And people have done like this, you know. But this is bad. So bad money drives away good money. Instead of paper currency, actual gold coins should be used for exchange. And this will stop prostitution of gold. Gold ornaments for women may be allowed by control, but not by quality, but by quantity. This will discourage lust, envy, and enmity. When there is actual gold currency in the form of coins, the influence of gold in producing falsity, prostitution, etc. will automatically cease. There will be no need of an anti-corruption ministry for another term of prostitution and falsity of purpose. Interestingly enough, all I have left are just silver coins. That's all I have, you know, and maybe that's my only real wealth. You know, I have things in accounts, bank accounts and whatnot. But yeah, this paper money system actually is...
Well, it's beyond that now that it's going to get more digital and
Yeah.
crypto and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It's getting even worse.
yeah, and well, it's hard to say yet because the crypto is supposed to be the fighting against the inflation, and I think what they're gonna do, what they're gonna do is they're gonna eventually let the paper crash because they printed so many artificial dollars. All it can do is crash. Everything's been so devalued, and what they're gonna do is because the whole world is in debt to paper, they're gonna buy all these stores of crypto, which they are doing, and then they're just gonna put they're gonna equate the debt into the cryptocurrencies, and then eventually the dollar will crash and the crypto will rise, which is what they want, and pretty much it's going to solve at least the United States. That's their plan, to solve all their debts.
False.
What?
I think that's totally false.
No, it's cheating. But that's what their plan is. And Russia is calling it out because they don't want it to happen. But they can't stop it because they set up this system and all these big companies. What they've done pretty much is they borrowed and borrowed and borrowed for years and increased the debt so high. And now all at once they're going to devalue the currency of the debt, including all of the people of this country. All their money will be devalued. And what's going to be left now is, no, don't worry. We have these new digital currencies. And then boom, and then they're gonna start inflating those somehow. They're actually already they're creating these what's called stable coins, and now these stable coins, they line up with the printed money, and they can, instead of printing dollars now, they can just the equivalent of printing, create digital coins and they just create more and more inflation. So Prabhupada is saying real currency should actually be done in coins. But the government, used to do like that actually.
Well, yeah, our Federal Reserve was based on that. In other words,
Yeah.
backing up all the paper money that was out there until they decided, well, we're not going to worry about that.
Yeah, but it's but unfortunately now we're gonna have digital coins, but not a good idea. And what's going to happen, because we're implicated in this, is there's going to be so much cheating, and you're already seeing there isn't now, and then they tell you, don't worry, your income's going up. Now everyone makes $100,000 a year, no problem. But guess what? That $100,000 a year doesn't get you what $20,000 a year got you, many years ago. It does. It's because it's why they're cheating. So yeah, Prabhupada he's warning that Kali is here. Wherever there's gold, there's going to be cheating and falsity, and he's giving the remedies for society. They will not follow, but at least devotees, what we can do our best to try to understand the real wealth, and the real wealth that the Vaishyas had always. They did have actual physical assets like gold, silver, gems, things like this. One of the main wealth was food items, land, cows, grains, storehouses of grains, and so on. So for the devotees, this is our wealth, and this is what we should work with, So anyway, we will inevitably have to use the false money system. What can we do in this, you know? I'm not going to say, Parth, I need you to pay rent with silver coin. It's not practical. It's not, no one has access to these things very easily. But we should understand that as we participate in this system, that so much cheating is going on, including we're being cheated. And so a lot of devotees, they will invest in real wealth. And Prabhupada wanted us all to invest in farms. He wanted us all to invest in farms. And actually, somehow or other, Krishna allowed us to invest in farmable land. It's there in Jordan, only a half an hour away. So maybe we can all work together and do something for Krishna there, especially if things get more disturbing here. Because, I don't want to scare anyone, but Prabhupada predicted that the cities were going to collapse in this country and all across the world. And then on top of that,
They already are.
it's degraded heavily, but the violence and crime, everything's through the roof. But actually, interestingly enough, the Vedic astrology predictions for the world have been, interestingly, said that we're in a state of war from 2020 to 2032. And at the peak of 2030, the most death that the world has seen since World War II is supposed to come. So anyway, 2020 it was obvious.
Sounds like nuclear.
Yeah, who knows? But at 2020 it was obvious that there was something happening with this government mandated coronavirus, and then government mandated injection everyone had to take and things. So that was, that's the beginning of the war. But anyhow, Prabhupada predicted all this. Bhagavatam Kali Yuga is predicting all this. What we really have to somehow do is get situated with the farms, because this is what Prabhupada said. Everyone will always need to eat. At the end of the day, that will always be there, and devotees can always support themselves and support others through eating, through tending the land.
Yeah, food and shelter.
So
Eventually we were supposed to go to the mountains.
Yeah, so who knows? Maybe if we're here in Syracuse, the devotees maybe we can have a shelter in Jordan, New York. But basically, if we look at the astrological time frame, we have maybe 3 to 4 years before things start getting really difficult. And if we don't figure something out in that time, we all could actually be in a lot of difficulty. So we have to see what Krishna makes available, but we also have to strive and make some attempts. We can't just continue on with what Prabhupada is saying, this false system, because this false system is bound to cheat us all and collapse everything. And what to do? And it happens, the stock market, Great Depression, this thing. What has happened every time is the big financiers of society, they knew how to cheat and devalue everything all at once. And then they buy everything up cheap that they want, and we're all left here fighting and begging for bread, So, but Prabhupada said millions will come to our farms. Why? Because he knows if the devotees had farms available, then we can provide for others, and then everyone will be interested. And if that did happen, maybe everyone would be interested in Krishna consciousness, because look, these guys figured something out. But some people think I'm crazy or a conspiracy theorist or things, but I'm just listening to what Prabhupada said, and it's predicted in the scriptures, and now even predicted in Vedic astrology. So,
Well, that's why my friend Janeshwar, he purchased Gitanagari.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so important.
He purchased Gitanagari.
What?
He purchased Gitanagari.
Well, he did it for the temple. He was sent out to go find a farm that they could buy.
Mm.
And so he found Gitanagari.
It's a great service, actually. We love Gitanagari. Who knows? Maybe we'll all just end up at Gitanagari. I actually tell them that every time I go there. I'm saying, who knows? If things really start getting tough, we'll probably pack up and come,
I don't know, like, say that though.
Yeah.
Come before then. We need help.
Yeah. I mean, I just honestly, if they had a pretty if they had a good system of integrating others' needs in there, I think a lot of people would come actually. So I think that would be in their best interest. All the Krishna conscious farms, this Krishna Life, they're selling their temple in Atlanta, and they're also they're buying a farm. They have like a big social media movement.
With the way small farmers are going out because they can't afford to, live and do the farms or whatever.
Yeah.
There's more and more farms available for purchase,
you
takeover, whatever,
Yeah, you can get probably a potential bargain. I mean, even us, we got a really good bargain on this 5.5 acres of land, which is why we did it. I actually wasn't thinking I would want to ever sell, because what I did is I sold the silver that I had purchased years ago, and it increased in value. And I never thought I would want to do that, but her pregnancy hormones were like, we need a place for him, we need this. And I was like, and then somehow or other this Shiva Das arrived, who was a realtor here, and then this land arrived, and it was just like a pretty good steal. So we're like, all right, but now we just don't know what to do with it. But anyhow, who knows? Yeah, but we'll see. Maybe Krishna will arrange. So we'll see what Krishna can do. But yeah, ideally, this is what we work towards as devotees, not just having a preaching center in the city, because eventually things are going to get rough, and cities, Prabhupada is predicting, are going to get in a really treacherous state. And when that happens, devotees should hopefully be prepared.
Well, you see that with Ryan was just saying that in his city there were 600,000 people, and 80,000 people died because of these bombs. And
Yeah. I mean, the nuclear wars. He was in his city in Ukraine. They were one of the first to be touched by such conflict. And they lost everything. They had to flee the country, and they had to go. Who knows whether that's going to go make its way to Syracuse, but it is possible. But guess who won't be nearly as heavily affected is the people who are outside the cities.
Well, farms, naturally it's a mode of goodness too. It's going to help the gray matter in the body and all that. I mean, it's just a nicer place to be.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very holistic. I mean, Krishna grew up farming. That's the most ideal existence is out in the land and the forests.
I've never been a city person.
You've always been?
I have
never.
not.
No, I haven't either. I grew up in the country.
And as a kid, I used to go to farms all the time.
Yeah. So let's do it. Let's all commit. Let's use 50% of all of our Krishna conscious earnings to have a farm. But we'll see. Anyhow, but I think it would be a good idea if within 2 years we have the land already. That's the difficult part. But now we just need to have something set up. Worship and shelter there, and who knows, maybe an ashram transfer could happen.